Hey guys, welcome back to Freestyle Unlimited. Today I finally got the bearings in for the 550 build, so we are going to jump right back into it. Let's see what we've got going on today. So, as you guys know, I did have the, these are our old bearings, but the bearings I ordered initially from Watercraft Superstore, they were still crank bearings, but they were actually these two bearings for the middle, which I am not going to replace because it requires substantial disassembly of the entire crank and rebalancing, and I'm not going to do that because I know this motor was running and good when I bought it. And these bearings don't have a lot of play, they feel good, so we're just doing the outer bearings. But I was able to get in contact with Competitive Crankshafts, and they got me these sent out. They were actually substantially cheaper after taxes and everything for the correct bearings. So they did come with new O-rings and everything. I'll show you guys really quick, just a little comparison, and then I'll get into what we've got going on today for our video. So we have our new bearing and we've got our old bearing. Side by side, we've got our part numbers. They should be exactly the same. These are an updated revision, but they should work out for us. We'll just make sure here. Yep. Alrighty. So let's get into it. So another thing I realized the last video where we did the stator swap to the good stator, when I was repinning this, I forgot to add our little cap on here, which needs to go before our plug. I think I made a note about it and I realized it while I was editing in the last video. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to pull this plug off, we're going to put this back on, repin it, and then we'll get into pressing our new bearings on our crankshaft. Alright, so that is going to complete our stator. This will bolt up to our E-box here, and our plug will plug in. So yeah, here's an example of our E-box. Our cap will sit right there, just like that, and seal up to our E-box. Alright, moving on to our crank, let's hop over to the press. Let's get our new bearings pressed on. We are going to make sure, because these are the way they came off, that both of our O-rings are going to sit on the outside of the crank. So, when looking at our crank here, this out of the way, we're going to have one here, and we're going to have one here, just like that. So these will slip on part of the way, and then they'll get pressed on the rest of the way. We'll kind of get them centered on there. They'll come down a little ways. So we get centered up there. We'll get our crankshaft nice and braced here, and we'll get this pressed on. We're going to have to get a socket or a cup for this to press on properly. So, all right, so I've got my pressing cups here. We want to find one that'll fit just larger than our crankshaft itself, so that we're pressing directly on that inner bearing race, which this one will work out just fine. I'm going to use a backing plate here to give us a nice flat level surface for our, there we go, for us to press on. And then usually when I'm pressing stuff like this, I use this shimming material. I'll try and shim the crankshaft so we don't get any warpage under this side, because since we're not pressing, since we've got these offset portions that the crank is attached to, we don't have direct force straight down. I like to try and shim these counterbalances so they don't get bent and throw off our alignment. So I've got a bunch of shimming material here. Usually I can get away with these two. So now we're going to go ahead, now that we're all shimmed up, I've got this stuff held so we're not going to bend our crank or offset any of these other pieces that are pressed in. We're just going to go ahead and press our bearing. Down. Make sure we're centered up on it all the way. And we're just going to go until we bottom out here. All right. And that is seated. All right. Come back up. Perfect. Use our same cup for the next one. Take my whole crankshaft out and flip it over. Just like that. Lined up here. Got our other bearing. I've already put the O-ring on here. O-ring's gonna go furthest out. So let's get on here. So there's a sleeve on here that normally you don't need to press over, but I couldn't get the sleeve off, so we're gonna have to press over it. Should be pretty easy though. Back this all the way up. Shoot. I'm gonna have to. There we go. All right, we're over that sleeve. Now, get on here, center back up, get our cup on there. We'll get our second side pressed down. Oh shoot. Actually, before I forget, thank God, I gotta get my spacer washer on there. So let's drop that on. Oh, well, that's the little sleeve I was talking about that comes off. So we will run that right back on. Just like this. That was kind of crazy actually how well that came off. So that on here. This on here. Telling you guys about this little house and O-ring. This is just slips right on here, lives on our crank. So there is our new crank, our new bearings, everything all pressed together. Let's assemble the bottom end. All right, so before we get to actually installing the crank in the bottom end, we want to make sure everything's clean and prepped and ready to go. So I've already gone back through this one, cleaned the surface pretty well. We're just going to do a final wipe down on both of these, and then we'll run some 1211 all the way around, and we'll get our crankshaft put in. So. All right, so we've got everything ready here to dress our crank. So we're going to run our washers on first. These are going to go just after the bearing on both ends. And then on the front side, the stator side, we're going to lube up our front seal. I'm just using high temp marine grease here. Just going to lube this whole thing up here. Back on the stator side. Slip that on there. Perfect. And then we're going to flip around here. We're going to get our washer on our coupler side. And then these we're going to do a little bit different because this is your oddball There's your double seal, and you've got a single seal. This is going to go on the outside. So we are going to lubricate this up a little bit. And that is going to be our seal install. We are just about ready to go into the case. All right, so we are going to be using our 1211 silicone liquid gasket. This one I've already opened and already started using for a couple other projects. But this is going to be probably my recommendation for what you want to use on case sealant. So that's going to be what we're going to use today. We're going to get our crank set in here. Drop our crank back in. Gonna lift up on our bearing there. Everything should line up. Perfect. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna run our 1211 sealant. We're gonna go all the way around this whole thing. I'm actually gonna do it on the lower case, and then we're gonna sandwich this thing together. And then we'll jump over to the factory manual to get our torque specs. But we're just gonna do a thin bead all the way around this whole case. So that's going to be how we're going to do our case. Now we're just going to flip this over, line everything up, made it all together. I'm going to get my stator on the front there. All right. And I'm going to come right down over this. Just like that. There's a couple alignment dowels that we'll need to line up. But just making sure we've got our crank centered, making sure our seals look good. Our stator's going to be on there. All right. So I'm going to come back in with all of my bolts. We're going to run these down snug, and then we'll pull torque specs. Take a look at our book, and we'll get our torque specs. So, right here, we've got our crank section. Move this over so you guys can see. Got all of our crank stuff here. We are gonna go off of this crank order. We're starting in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So just the way we just did it, I believe. It might have been off 1 or 2, but they're all snugged up, ready to go. And then we'll do our small ones on the front flywheel cover last. But we're gonna do this in reference to the table back here, where our, where are we? 550 crankcase, large bolts and small bolts. We're gonna do 16 foot-pounds and 50 inch-pounds. So 16 foot-pounds and 50 inch-pounds. So you guys can see there, we're set to 16 foot-pounds. We're gonna go in order here, and we're just gonna get this all torqued up. Okay. You know what, actually, I'm just going to put that down. I'm going over here. Alrighty. And then we're going to switch up and we're going to go to our 50 inch-pounds. Oh, this one only goes to 60. So I'm going to do 60. It'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. Very, very light. There we go. And okay. So our crankcase is all torqued. We're just going to mount our stator up. I'm going to clear up some of this excess 1211 in here that we've got. Actually, that one's probably fine. And then we get our stator screws. I'm going to show you how to adjust your stator here in a minute. I'm going to just throw this up here and get our screws in at first. Just like that, and just like this. So we'll run these down, not tighten them down yet, but we'll get them run down a little bit. And the big thing is we want to make sure we are seated. So let me grab you guys really quick. So when you're installing your stator, you want to be really careful because you have to get this plate to sit inside of this lip. If it doesn't, see how it moves? You got to be really careful because if you don't get it seated all the way, you can still get the screws tightened down. Let me show you here. You can get it caught on that edge right there. See, I'm not fully seated. It's catching on that edge, and you can still thread the screw in, and it will damage your stator. So you got to make sure when you get this on here that you're in on this one, right on that side, and this side before you actually start tightening stuff down and locking it down. So it'll clip in like that. Now we're in on both sides. You can see the movement and the movement here. So just be very careful about that. We're gonna get our screw set in here, and then what I'll do is I'll show you guys how to set your stator. So you can see this little timing mark here. This is gonna be your timing, and that same ledge I was talking about here, that's gonna be our reference point. So this is going to be stock timing. You want that line there to line up directly with that ledge. So we're going to leave it there, and then we're going to tighten it down, and I'll show you guys once everything is done here. Alright, so let's get these snugged up a little bit just so that they're a little bit harder to turn. And I will finalize the rotation while we're loose here, just like that. Crank that down a little bit. All right, and that is our bottom end completely assembled. Now we are ready to. The other thing you want to check is you want to make sure that you've got everything rotating freely. And everything is, in fact, rotating freely. It's a little bit snug, but I do think that's just because of our new seals. Definitely going to spin this around. We'll clean off any 1211 that might be getting on the crank, because there will be a little bit if there's a little bit of squeeze out. Just like that. This all cleaned up here. just like that. And now we're ready to put our top end on. So awesome, a lot of progress getting made on this motor. So next thing we'll be doing, we'll install our pistons here in our connecting rods, and then we will be putting our top end on. So we'll start the final assembly probably in the next video. So that is going to be today's video of how to assemble the bottom end, how to press our new bearings on, and get the whole bottom end ready to reassemble. We're making good progress here. So I'm really excited about that. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in. And if you guys have any recommendations, please let me know. Comment down below. Just any suggestions, anything. I know I say this a lot, but seriously, you guys, like if there's anything you guys want to learn, I'd love to help you guys out. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.